Happy New Year. It's where you've started on the new year of 2017. And I haven't done anything for quite a while. Our podcast has been on hold due to my unemployment and also some other life things that have gotten in the way. My daughter graduated high school and we're trying to get her flow of what regular people do after they get out of high school, whatever that is. So lots of stuff is sort of in the way of me making podcasts. But before I get into a podcast about my life, let's just say that today I thought it would be interesting if we had something a little different. And what I'm going to do is today's segment is going to be, and I'm just going to have segments, it's not going to be a regular podcast, but it's Rob's Rant. So today we're going to be talking about Kickstarter and some of my frustrations and misgivings about the company and the phenomena that is Kickstarter. And this mainly has to do with the board gaming world. We're really not talking about starting businesses or any other kind of thing that you use Kickstarter for. Crowdfunding, I guess is what you call it. So before we go on, let me give you a little bit of history about Kickstarter. Kickstarter is an American public benefit corporation. Of course, I'm reading this right off of Wikipedia. Hopefully, some of this is right. It started in 2009. The headquarters is in Brooklyn, New York. And again, the founders were Perry Chen, Yancey Stickler, and Charles Adler. And this is basically what they would call a crowdfunding type of organization or site. People who back Kickstarter projects are offered tangible rewards as a one-of-a-kind experiences in exchange for pledges. This model traces back its roots to subscription model of arts patronages, where artists would go directly to their audience and to fund their work. Kickstarter, it says, applies a 5% fee on the total amount funds raised. The categories that people do is from anything from art, comics, dance, design, fashion, film. I've seen a lot of films, by the way, on there. Photography, you name it. Board games is just a section of what these people fund. A number of movies, one documentary, The Sun Come Up, Incident in New Baghdad, they both got Academy Awards. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it definitely gives people that are in the entertainment industry, if you're trying to get your music produced and published, you don't necessarily have to go through the big music folks to do that, just like movies. So in that way, I can see how it would be really great. Of course, why I'm here, why we're talking about this, is because basically it is primarily connected to a lot of the board games that are made. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them these days are being produced from Kickstarter. So let's delve into my rant, okay? In a day where publicity is the golden ticket for many in Hollywood, and the YouTube phenomena is phenomena of viral shot video from a cell cam, it's no wonder how Kickstarter has pushed its way into the minds and pocketbooks of the American board gamers. The social deficiencies and trolls aren't just in our dungeon crawlers. They are inside our electronic devices and computers whenever you connect to the web. Yes, the blind trust that people have to Kickstarter creations is like the empty transaction of so-called love in downtown alleys for 10 minutes of pleasure that single stockbrokers seek on Friday nights. Yeah, that's a bit harsh. But those of us geeks that have a need for toys and collectibles seem to outweigh the desire that the players seek and soundly construct mechanics of a particular toy or board game that a group of testers has finally shaped into the tight and clean ride of, let's say, Ticket to Ride or Pandemic. Those games went through publishers, and those publishers have testers, and they made sure that those products were ready to be sold, so that when you bought it, you felt like it was an investment, or it was a return on your investment, in other words. And those overly hyped leaps of faith hit the tables of used game sales or gamers' garage sale all too often. It does benefit the one who leaves for about $5-10. Although, I've seen this saga all too often. These days, many geeks, us geeks, because me included, paying hundreds of dollars for their fun seems unwisely and even sick, because the return on those investments seems incredibly minimal. The podcast, The Secret Cabal, one of their hosts, Tony, often quotes these people as having acquisition disorder, and he seems to shake his head in an audio way at this phenomena. Often, most other industries and hobbies do not show this kind of oniomania, or in layman's terms, shopaholics. Yes, a compulsive, almost irrational sense to want to own something that the geek or nerd in us must have due to this passion that we have for, let's say, Star Wars, that no other sector in a particular society displays. And yet, this is what fuels Kickstarter and other crowdfunding entities like it. In fact, one could go so far to argue that a high percentage of the board gaming community are patrons of an industry that would normally falter and die in the greater world. So I do see the importance of Kickstarter in those projects that would not normally get funded. The problem is it's the same sort of fervor and profiting that goes on with cults who fund their leaders that professes to be Jesus reincarnate. I can't help but feel this is an irrational behavior occurring in the geek-like world that has a stronger sort of passion and pocketbook than most other hobbies. I've seen geeks at game stores and conventions that do not shave or bathe and dress in rags because all of their passions are enveloped in their hobby and those investments like a drug addict. I've seen used game sales where people buy games with broken mechanics because of this perverse sort of shopaholicism, if you want to say it as such. Why else would a game be at a used game sale? Could it be stolen? Or did the game not quite live up to the hype that the board gaming often puts on, let's say, Gen Con? So why would anyone trust the hype machine inside our hobby? Maybe, just maybe, more of us should try a game a few times before buying it. Seems wise. But let's think about it in the Hollywood industry. Okay? How many times have you been to a movie after getting so excited from commercials or whatnot that you waited in line for over an hour only to leave frustrated with the perception that you were ripped off? I'm sure all of you have been there. Yet most of the gaming community throws caution into the wind and participates in Kickstarter campaigns over and over again. I can proudly say that I've only funded metal coin add-ons to games or a reprint of an existing game that I knew was good. Although I'm not trying to make myself sound like I'm better than anyone else. I just know that money comes too hard for most of us. And car payments, mortgages, family bills are much too important than having some sort of game that might be good on Kickstarter. Because let's face it, most games on Kickstarter are not properly tested. That's the long and the short of it. The statistics show that Kickstarter cannot and do not guarantee a great game. Hell, most games don't even get made on Kickstarter. I could cite many examples of disasters on these crowdfunding sites like the doom that came to Atlantic City, a total bomb of a game that stole people's money, and in no way was this game innovative or exciting. It was just Monopoly with a new theme. I am guessing most gamers got excited with the theme because why else would you buy this game? But it appears that miniature games are probably the most popular Kickstarter campaigns that I've seen. And these miniature games seem to have exorbitant prices because apparently plastic is a rare element in this 21st century, I guess, with gimmicks and boring, non-innovative rules and mechanics to these games. The RPG game Myth, and I'm talking RPG game, not a board game, was made and funded at $1 million. However, it got horrible reviews, and often the term for this game was boring, and rinse repeat was also used. Another example is Kingdom Death. The first time the Kingdom Death came out, it had exorbitant prices. It wasn't even funded the very first time they came out with a campaign, and the second campaign finally reached its goal, only to receive a boring review from most gamers. Another one is Hex Shards of Fate. It was a ripoff of Magic the Gathering and failed, which it didn't give back the money that it gained its patrons, much like the Doom that came to Atlantic City. That game, the Doom that came to Atlantic City, had to be picked up by, I believe, Cryptozoic, and they made the game for those backers as a sort of pity move. In an article on Geek.com, they did a study of Kickstarter over a 10-year period. Let's look into this a little bit so that you get a kind of an idea after some extensive research. They looked at 100 games, 50 video, 50 board, card, and RPG games. Of those board games category, 26 of the 50 were published after collecting funds from its patrons. So out of the 50, only 26 was published. That's an awful figure. Of those 26, only 6 received somewhat good reviews, and out of those 6, only 1 said it was an exceptional board game. Listen, of the 50 video games, only 11 were actually delivered. And of those 11, only 2 were deemed good games. Video games have a little bit of a more of a rough thing because it seems like there's more involved with a video game, but who knows? I'm not a big video game buff. They went on to say in this article, within the collegiate community, that would be a C- or D+ at best. So I ask you, all you geeks out there, all you nerds that love games like I do, why do people still give to Kickstarter and other crowdfunding campaigns? Not only does Kickstarter continually put out subpar products, because let's face it, most cases they don't even deliver on their campaigns and goals. We should demand that frequently Kickstarter companies like Cool Mini or Not, Tasty Minstrels, who by the way do a ton of Kickstarter campaigns, create games the way most companies do. Most companies, and I'm not even talking about board gaming companies, they fully test their products. They even hire often outside entities to test those products, hiring writers and copywriters to hone those and create rule books for the board games, etc., 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 by not buying their games until they're properly tested and making them ready for the public. But you know, that'll never happen. Many people argue that Kickstarter and other crowdfunding sites fuel innovation and products that might never come to fruition. But the statistics do not support that argument. There is a reason why most established gaming companies do not make some risky games. Much like the game industry, fan-made movies I've seen on YouTube, like those Star Wars geeks, are simply bad and thankfully didn't receive funding from big studios. They are fine on YouTube for these artsy creations. That's fine. No one paid for those. I submit that the gaming industry should follow suit. There's a reason why products that you've never heard of do not get made. Because they aren't ready for the public and are simply just bad. I guarantee that a good product will be made by an established company out there for whatever that product is, because it has the return on the investment that are too good for companies to pass up. Because let's face it, we are in a capitalistic society. And those organizations and companies have an interest in making money. Someone will make that product if it's good, in other words. The gaming industry should be no different. People argue differently that are looking for those few exceptions to the rule because the statistics prove it. Please stop funding Kickstarter games. It's bad for the industry. You know, at the end of the day, we have so much money, and that money, to each his own, there's only 1% out there that can afford just about every game if they wanted it. But the vast majority of the public has to be more careful with our money. Not because I am your mother saying you should be more responsible. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just saying the myth of the Kickstarter and that hidden gem out there. How many times has one of those come out? Really rare. I would say it's less than 1%. And from the couple of sites that did research over a 10-year period, it's quite clear that that's true as well. As Holly Hunter said in the film Always, he's too beautiful. He's too much twisted steel and sex appeal. I can't be with a guy that looks like I want him in a raffle. This, too, is the case with most Kickstarters. Kickstarters, most games, are all flash, nothing to them. It's like trying to judge a book by its cover. Lots of good artwork, sounds awesome, but like I said, less than 1% are going to be good. You be the judge. Good luck.